You see, we put on those suits. We strive. We strive to pursue happiness, and ultimately we wind up at a dead-end road. Are you feeling like you've hit a no-through road? Are you feeling like, you've just tried and tried to make that spouse happy and you weren't able to? Well, I've got good news for you today. You need to forgive yourself. Have you tried to make a business venture work and you failed? Do you feel like a failed parent? Well, I want you to know today that you need to start afresh and you need to forgive yourself. You need to understand that, you know what? No one is created to ultimately arrive to a final destination while you're here on this earth. There's a map of you. You are a spirit, you have a soul, and you live in a body. And the map of you together, all three of you, if you're divided, then you're going to find you're going to get exhausted inside. You have a hope that's been given to you. And when there's times that you feel like you have no hope, there's times where you feel like you've missed it, there's times where you feel like you failed, well, that's where you need to stop and just take a real good look at where you're going wrong. And if you've made the same mistake, then you need to readdress that mistake and try not to make those same mistakes. It's all about who you are. It's all about why you were created. When someone dies, your spirit means breath. Did you know that? I'm sure you didn't, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of an understanding of what your spirit means. When a person dies, their spirit leaves their body. This is your earth suit. This is only your earth suit. And with that earth suit comes the pursuit of happiness. Think about it. Your breath, your suit, happiness. There's per suit, per happiness. You put on a suit to make people happy. You put on a suit, but deep inside you're sad. Being a pastor, I'm going to go back and reflect on that a little bit, because I've shared a little bit about my testimony. My mother died. My father hit the booze straight away. He didn't communicate across to us what death means and where my mother went and why she died. I just thought she left and she was never going to come home. I saw little bits of pieces of her deterioration, and as I look back, I didn't really, I had to put the puzzles together to realize that my mother had actually died, because it wasn't formally told to us. You see, where I came from in my background, they thought that if children didn't know any better, they didn't have to know. Or there was another cliche that God took good people like your mother. I heard growing up that, God took your mother because she was a good person. You see, our society and our generation has really a lot to answer for, because cliches, sweeping things under the carpet, isn't going to cut it. It's not going to cut it anymore. I'm looking at my children's generation. They're at a primary school. Their level of understanding is way above what I had when I was a little child. And you know what? They're so much smarter. They're so much up with what's going on. And yet they're taking drugs early. They're taking, they're having sex early. My little daughter in grade prep, you would hear her coming home saying, "Mum, so-and-so, a boyfriend, a girlfriend." That never happened when I was a little girl. I'm going to tell you now that the acceleration of understanding for our generation is, or for my children's generation, is far quicker than what it ever was when I was a little girl. I never understood my mother's death. I never understood what happened to my mother exactly. I had to guess. And that hunger and that desire within me to long for love. My mother's love was snatched from me. It was taken from me at an early age. So I started to pursue happiness. I went on a journey to look for my mother, and I went on a garden path. I went on a journey that wound me up in a terrible, terrible situation where I could have died time after time after time after time. You might be watching this and you might be saying, Susanna, I'm on a journey and I'm looking for love. I'm looking for answers. I hop on to the TV early hours of the morning looking at those clairvoyants as they're talking into the TV screen, trying to tell me, looking for help, looking for hope, looking for words that will give me hope for the future. But I'm here to tell you today that, you know, that you're pursuing happiness isn't in a clairvoyant. It's not in a Tats Lotto, prediction that you might win $5 million. Your pursuit of happiness, you're looking for a father that you never had in your husband. And your husband doesn't measure up to your standards because your father let you down. You're pursuing happiness through drugs and alcohol and gambling because that gives you an instant gratification. As a pastor, I meet countless of people that come to me that are at the end of their hope rope, that are basically either depressed or on the edge of suicide. What are we giving to our next generation? 60,000 divorces in 1 year for the 2013 tells me that our generation somewhere is missing it. Our generation somewhere thinks that money is in happiness. That pursuing happiness has to do with getting and obtaining and having the house that makes me happy, having the car that makes me happy, having the clothing, having the gold, having the savings in my bank account that makes me happy. I've got good news for you today, that our generation has missed it. We need to have a rude awakening. We need to have a wake-up call. You know, because 60,000 marriages, I multiply that, and that tells me there's 120. I'm just going to give you a rough estimate, but I'm guessing 60,000 marriages have at least 2 children in those marriages. 2 children times 60 marriages, to me, is around 120,000 children out there that have witnessed mummy and daddy fighting, swearing, throwing things at each other, leaving one another. I'm telling you now that we're going to be facing in the next 5 years a generation that's going to be either having sex at a very young age, drugs at a very young age, alcohol at a very young age. I'm not going to sweep this under the carpet and pretend that our society doesn't have to be made aware or accountable for what it is that we're doing to our next generation.